Sonic Advance was one of the first two Sonic games to hit a Nintendo platform. In Japan, it actually came out the same day as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on the GameCube way back in 2001. Definitely the most notable thing to happen that year. Sonic Advance was developed by Dimps, who had a great run with Sonic. Besides the Advance series, they would go on to give us two great games in the Sonic Rush series, a secret third Rush game in the DS version of Sonic Colors, and one more game I just can't seem to remember at the moment. The later Advance games, and especially the Rush games, put a much bigger focus on speed. Heck, Rush introduced the boost system that would become the core of Sonic's gameplay for almost 2 decades to come. But Dimps didn't start out as the speed demons they'd later become. The first Sonic Advance is my favorite of the trilogy, and I think that's because of how much it feels like the Genesis games. I'm a big Sonic 3 and Knuckles enjoyer. 3 playable characters, a bopping soundtrack, and a great mix of flashy speed and careful platforming really just do it for me. So why do we stop there? Why not Sonic 4? Well, I'd argue that we did get a sort of Sonic 4 in Sonic Advance. Or I guess Sonic 5 when you count CD. Maybe Sonic 6, since Mania exists now. Anyway, if you've played any of the Genesis era games, Sonic Advance will feel familiar right off the bat. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles all make a return, playing more or less how we left them in Sonic 3. Everyone's rocking their Adventure era designs now with some super sleek sprite work, and there's been a few updates to their movesets. Everyone gets an attack on the B button, the same ones you'd see in the Adventure games, but these are mostly for show. And for that one boss in Casino Paradise. There's also rails to grind, though not for Tails or Knuckles. Sonic can even do a little air dash, which doesn't give you a ton of speed, but can be helpful for correcting your position in the air. Like Sonic 2 and 3 before it, this game introduces a new playable character, Amy Rose. This time, instead of just being Sonic with a different air action, she plays completely differently from anyone else in the 2D Sonic game. Unlike the rest of the cast, Amy can't curl into a spin ball. Because of that, she can't spin dash, and she can't just jump on enemies to deal with them. Instead, she's got a completely unique moveset utilizing her Pico Pico hammer to bonk enemies and vault up into the air. Instead of a spin dash, she has this little quick step she can use to gain some speed. She's also the slowest of the 4 characters, which works really well alongside her slightly more involved style of play. You wind up with a little more time to react and place your hammer swings, and more of a focus on the platforming since the super speed isn't really an option. One trick a lot of folks seem to miss is that Amy can whack springs with her hammer and get double the bounce height from them. It's not usually important, but it opens up a shortcut or two for her. Later games in the Advanced series would change Amy to just use the spin ball like everyone else, but I really prefer this version of her. It's a really unique take on Sonic, and this game is worth playing just for her. Another Sonic tradition this game carries on is the first level being Neo Green Hill Zone. It's a fine start, but it's Act 2 where this game really starts to show its stuff. The soundtrack really starts to come alive here, and from this point on, it is bangers only. The Game Boy Advance is notorious for its raspy, crunchy sort of sound, but the music in this game really makes it work. Neo Green Hill Act 2 has that lush, almost tropical vibe you'd expect from a Sonic opener. Secret Base's music is appropriately sneaky and funky, like you're infiltrating, well, it's Secret Base. Casino Paradise has 2 of my favorite tracks in the game. Just some good, swanky Sonic swing. Huge respect to composers Tatsuyuki Maeda and Yukata Minobe. Some of these solos go absolutely brazy. One or both of these folks were absolute wizards on the keys, and this might be some of the most slept-on music in 2D Sonic. The levels these tunes play in will feel pretty familiar to fans of the Genesis games too. Aside from starting in Neo Green Hill, we hit staple themes like a casino level, an ice level, and even a return visit to Angel Island. The top paths have the trickier platforming, and the lower paths offer a little more speed, or they're just there to catch you if you fall. You'll also see some familiar objects and obstacles. Got these triangle bumpers from Sonic 2, these balloons from Carnival Night in Sonic 3, these sliding platforms from Ice Cap, and plenty more that I'm missing here. The levels do feel a bit smaller than those of the Genesis games, but I give it a pass since it's a game from so early in the GBA's life. One downside I'll bring up is that this game is pretty short. There's only 6 full zones with a short series of 3 bosses to cap things off. And 2 of those are just returning bosses from Sonic 1 and 2 who go down super easy. The final boss is also kind of lacking in grandiosity when you compare it to the Death Egg Robot or the Giant Eggman Robo. This feels like one of the easier 2D Sonic games too, especially if you're playing as anyone other than Sonic. There's a few tricky platforming sections here and there, and 1 or 2 of the bosses can be somewhat challenging, but the non-Sonic characters have ways to cheese past most of it. If you're brand new to this game, it might take you a little bit to get through it, but these days, I can blow through one character's playthrough in about an hour. If you want to extend your playtime, you can search through the levels to find a special spring that'll bounce you up into this game's special stages. Each zone gets one of these, except for Ice Mountain, which gets 2. They're pretty well hidden, too. Despite playing through this game multiple times, I really only remember where 1 or 2 of them are. These give you a fun reason to explore the stages, especially with Tails or Knuckles, since they have the easiest time backtracking or gaining height. The special stages themselves, while definitely my favorite in the Advanced series, do feel kind of lacking. They're going for this fake 3D thing, and it just becomes really hard to tell where I am in relation to the rings and hazards. They're also super unforgiving. You're shooting for a target number of rings, like the Sonic 2 half-pipes, but there's far fewer surplus rings, and it feels like one mistake will cost you the emerald. You also only get one shot at the special stage unless you exit the level and start over, so maybe use save states for these. If you do manage to get all of the emeralds, you unlock Super Sonic. Sadly, this time he's locked to a single boss fight in the Moon Zone. It's definitely not a bad boss, it's just no Doomsday. One last feature I want to touch on is the tiny Chao garden. Your save file starts off with an egg and you can hatch it by petting it, same as any other egg. Mine hatched into a wonderful little trumpet prodigy named Martin. You can spend the rings you collect in the main game on fruits and toys and earn a few extra rings via minigames. Though these are a lot slower and honestly not all that interesting to me. This feature is more of a novelty, as there's nowhere near as much to this as there is to the Chao gardens in the adventure games. This game does support the GBA GameCube link cable, and you can transfer Chao between your tiny Chao garden and the big Chao gardens in the adventure games. This can be a neat little way to take one of your favorite Chaos with you on the go, but I never really got much use out of it. To me, Sonic Advance feels like a sort of forgotten, miniaturized follow-up to the Genesis games. A bridge between the old style of gameplay and the newer adventure-era designs. I like the other Advance titles and I love the Rush games, but part of me wishes Dimps had stuck with this slightly more faithful take on 2D Sonic. If you're a Sonic fan and you haven't played this one, definitely give it a go. It might just sneak its way up your favorites list like it has for me.